Hello all, welcome back to Consciousness Rising. This is one I'm quite excited about putting. I've been excited about doing this one for a while. Uh, it got put on the back burner for a while because I was just so busy, but this is a really good theory. This can help us, I think, sometimes delving into mythology and, you know, archetypes and gods and things like that is, well, it's part of being a pagan, definitely, to understand that these represent forces of the universe and stuff. And it can really help you as you move through life and as you come across life's challenges. And that's very much the way I use this, and very much what it's actually about, even though it's actually talking about fiction. Again, this is why fiction and movies and, excuse me, stories and things are so important, because they're actually about us. They're psychological, you know, versions of us. And that's what this is about. This is the hero's journey. Okay, so it it all stems from this book, really, and this man's theory. This is Joseph Campbell, and he wrote this book. I can't remember the actual date of it. Perhaps I should have included that, but I can't remember. I think it's around the 40s, maybe a bit later. I can't remember. But The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And what he basically puts forward in this book is about what he discovered through studying lots and lots of mythology, is that there's a common archetype, and that is the hero. And the hero turns up time and time again, and he has to go through certain stages, this, that, and the other. And as I've put there, it links to mythology. Now, mythology, I think, is actually sometimes much more important than history, because the history we're often given as well is full of lies and deceit and things like that. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about this brilliant piece of work here. Now, I must admit, I did struggle a bit with the book to read it. The actual core concept of the book is phenomenal, and that's what I'm going to hopefully be putting forward here. But it's extremely dense. Like, he references so much material here. It's quite a difficult read, and I actually, well, I can read Carl Jung a bit easier than this. So that's saying a lot. A lot of people can't read Carl Jung. I find Jung's ideas easier to sort of read than Joseph Campbell's. But yeah, it's a very dense book. But he's linking it to mythology, and then he links it to human psychology, because these archetypes, they're all about us. They're inside us. It he's very much talking about this eternal return and natural cycles of nature, which, paganism, we talk about reincarnation, but not just reincarnation. These cycles of archetypes that happen within our lives, and the challenges that we go through on a day-to-day basis, and we go through cycles. Life is about cycles. It's about, different phases of our life. We go from baby to child, from child to teen to young adult to, you know um adult, and onward, and we have all these different themes that we go through, and cycles. And yeah, I've put there, it's about archetypal journeying, and it is mainly about this hero figure, but the hero is actually you, and I'm going to come on to that a bit more. But yeah, this is sort of a very if you want, it's a very good book to read. I found it quite difficult, but I love the themes in it. And yeah, it was a very intelligent man, extremely well read, and it links nicely with Carl Jung's theory of the collective unconscious and the archetypes, as I'm going to put forward in this video. So the hero goes through, in the book, he notices that these hero figures go through what's called three main phases of departure, initiation, and return. Now, you can apply this. It's such a beautiful thing, because you can apply it to your own life, right? So the hero must venture from the known world, from the comfortable, to the unknown world, and then return transformed. So this is a cycle. It repeats itself. This is why stories hit us on such a deep level, especially things like Lord of the Rings and things like that, or Star Wars, which I'm going to go on to talk about here, because Star Wars is very linked to this. But we do go through these things in life, and sometimes we can be, energy has to move. We have to move. We can't remain stagnant. And going out of your comfort zone really is about going from the known into the unknown and plunging, just like the Fool card, in the tarot. The tarot could link easily to this. I've spoke about the tarot a lot. In fact, I've got tarot videos coming up. But yeah, That's a, you see that white box there is sort of like, shows you a few of the stages that you go through. So you start out, you get a call to adventure, something happens and you have to go on a journey. You might meet a mentor, you cross the threshold, trials and failure will happen. That's normal of life. Growth and new skills, death and rebirth, revelation, finally changes, atonement, gift gets the gift, return, change to the world. It's a cycle, and it's a beautiful cycle. And I'll go on here to talk about the 17 stages of the journey. Now, stories, as he points out in the book, they do have these cyclic nature to them. Often they're very, very similar. Now, although he's identified 17 stages of the journey, not all stories have all 17 stages as well. That's very important to pick out. But they will often still have this departure, initiation, and return. But they won't have every single one of these. It's very rare, I think, to have every single one. But I'll go, so in the departure phase, you've got the call to adventure. Something happens that calls you to go on the journey. Now, he goes into the book there. What can happen is the hero refuses the call and chooses to stay stagnant. And that's so true, isn't it, of us? We do always have a choice. We don't have we can stay stagnant. It's not good for us, but we can refuse that call. But then what often happens is you get a supernatural figure that will come in and aid you and help you, or a mentor figure. I've had mentor figures. I've had mentor figures in books. I consider a lot of the people that I read today to be my mentors and teachers and guides. I've had physical ones as well, on the earth plane. I've had people that I've met that I've learnt so much from and gone forward in my own way. So, we often will meet people that inspire us and are this supernatural aid to our own life's adventure. Then we have to cross the first threshold. We have to step out from the unknown the known into the unknown, which is scary. It's not easy, just as life isn't easy. Life has many, many trials, and that's what all these are, really. They're all just different phases of and tests to life. We have to cross that first threshold in order to grow. Then often we go into what's called the belly of the whale, and that's sometimes where we get into deep trouble, or we have to go through something very dark. People refer to it, don't they, as the dark night of the soul. Sometimes we have many of them in our lives. I've had quite a few of them in my life, and I'm sure as you sit and look at this, you can probably think of different parts of your life that correspond to these 17 stages. So yeah, out of the belly of the whale, we're now in the initiation phase, and then we go on the road of trials, and we're tested. And sometimes these tests in life, I'm very fortunate because of the job I do. You see that these tests and trials, if we don't master them, they repeat. They come back to bite us on the arse, to teach us to move forward. So that's the road of trials. You're now in the initiation phase and the meeting with the goddess. We meet the goddess. That I'm not going to go too much into that, but that can be quite powerful. I can think of many films where that happens. You meet this goddess figure. Woman as the temptress. That's another phase. You're tempted by the woman. Atonement with the father and abyss. That's something I'm going to talk about a bit of depth in a minute because I've got some examples. Apotheosis, and then you get the ultimate boon. That's the thing you've come for, the treasure. Okay, and that's the whatever that treasure is, and whatever that thing that you've been seeking, you take it from the initiation phase, and then you cross you go back into the return phase. So you've completed whatever it is that you've set out to do. You've got the boon, and now you're in the return phase. Some people, as he puts here, they refuse the return. They want to stay where they are. And then you get the magic flight. Then you get rescue from without, which is where you're rescued. Now, as I'm saying these, I'm getting films, I'm getting stories all flashing to my and hopefully it's doing that to you too. Then you get the crossing of the return threshold, and when you return, nothing's the same again. Then you become master of the two worlds, and then you have freedom to live. So yeah, these are the 17 stages split up into the three phases, but they, not all stories have all of them in, but you will definitely, if you just look at this and start to apply it to your own life, that's for me the beauty of this theory, is how it applies to your own life. But yeah, it's in stories, because stories are, they spring forth from our, human beings' imagination, which is magic, isn't it? I've put a couple of examples. I could have gone on, but I mean, this presentation could have been 4 hours long, easy, if I'd have really delved into all films and stuff. But Lord of the Rings is a great example. It's full of these. And I've put there the crossing of the first threshold in the Lord of the Rings. Now, this is a very, very powerful moment, because Sam and Frodo, they have to leave the Shire. They've been, Frodo's discovered that he's got this destructive ring that could bring about the enslavement of all the world, and Sauron's looking for it, and he knows he's got to go on this quest. At the moment, all he knows is he's got to get to Rivendell, which is where the elves are. And Sam's gone along with him. And now hobbits in the film, they're very, very gentle folk, and they're very much stay-at-home sort of people, and they like their farming and their food, and their they live a very, very quaint village life. But Sam recognizes, and he says to Frodo, he says something like, "If I take one more step, Mr. Frodo, it's the furthest away from the Shire that I've ever been." And it's such a beautiful, beautiful moment. He recognizes, as I've written there, that he is now entering the unknown world. He's going in. He's going into uncomfortable territory. He's never been there before. He's never seen life and the world outside of the Shire, because the world of Middle Earth is massive. It has lots of different kingdoms, but as I said, hobbits, they often stay in their Shire, and they're very happy with that, which is beautiful in itself. But he knows that, he's going into the unknown, and he's hesitant, because he knows that if he does make it back on this journey, that he's never going to be the same. He's going to have experiences that are going to enhance his soul, hopefully, but he could be potentially stepping into danger. All life has risk to it. Every time we open ourselves up to new experience and new avenues, there's always a risk, but we hope to get a reward from it, and we will get a reward, really, even if sometimes things go awry. It's all learning. Life is all experience and learning, and he's hesitant, and I'm sure we all identify with these characters. I mean, that's why these films are so damn powerful. We've all felt like Sam. We've all felt like, God, I've got to do something next week. There's a new challenge in my life. I might be maybe starting uni or something, and I don't know what it's going to be like. I've never done anything like that before. We've all felt this stuff. It's so powerful. So yeah, that's an example of the crossing of the first threshold in Lord of the Rings. Beautifully, beautifully done. Star Wars is a huge, huge thing. Now, literally, as I've written there, George Lucas, the creator of I'm talking about the original trilogy, from 77, was it? Which in my mind, they're still the best films out of the 9. You've got 9 films now, all these bloody offshoots. I'm not going to talk about the newer films, because, in fact, I could do a presentation on that and how they're trying to destroy archetypes and how bad that is. The films 7, 8, and 9 are just terrible. Everyone knows they're terrible. Disney, basically, I think it was done very deliberately. Actually, they were destroying the archetypes on purpose, because that links to human psychology, and they know it. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. Maybe that's for another video. But as I put there, George Lucas literally used Joseph Campbell's book. He used Hero of a Thousand Faces as a reference guide when writing the original Star Wars movies, and they're full of these stages that I talked about. There are many themes throughout these films, one of which is Luke Skywalker's biggest themes throughout the second and third movie, and that's Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, is atonement with the Father. And it's a beautiful, beautiful way that it comes about. Luke has to go through many, many trials. I mean, his call to adventure, I think it starts with, he's got the call within himself, if I remember rightly, when he's on his own planet of Tatooine. He lives with his aunt and uncle. He wants to go off and, he wants to venture. He wants an adventure. He wants to go out and fly X-Wings and stuff. And he's held back by his uncle. His uncle fears, because he knows his family history, what he could become. His uncle and aunt sort of keep him there on the farm. He's frustrated. And then one day, through fate and will and external situations, his aunt and uncle are killed. And he sort of teams up with Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's the supernatural aide, and Obi-Wan takes him on trains him, starts training him to be a Jedi, which is this old sort of knight. And he teaches him to use the Force and all these things. They're so deep and rich, and they're beautiful movies. And really, at the heart of it, especially in, like I said, those last two movies, is this atonement with his father. His father has strayed off the path of righteousness and gone into sort of the dark arts and become a Sith Lord. And because of his, if you watch the prequel trilogy, it shows how that happened, which are, they're a bit of cheesy fun, but I still think the power really is in this 4, 5, and 6 movies. He actually saves his father in the end by making him come back to the light, and it's so beautiful. Star Wars is full of it. You could take those 17 steps as you're watching the trilogy, and you could identify so many stages, and it's just beautiful storytelling. It's beautiful storytelling in many, many ways, and that's why it hits us on such. That's why these things are so popular. It is, of course, it is the special effects as well and all that, and you could talk about all that, but it's not about that. It's about the human soul and growth. That's what makes these things so popular, because they hit us on such a deep level. Another scene I want to point out here, and this, I've done a video on this. If you go back to my videos and look at shadow work in the Lord of the Rings, I go into what happens to Gandalf in this and how he has to face his shadow. Put that aside for a minute, but basically, in the first Lord of the Rings films, the characters go through the Mines of Moria. They have to do it because basically they can't go over the mountain. There's too much snow. Saruman is basically causing a lot of that, and they're forced to go under this mountain, which is very, very much a belly of the whale. They're in the dark. They can't see. They know they're going to be there for days. They don't want to disturb anything. Gandalf, as the wise wizard, knows damn well that there's things down there that are very, very dangerous, and he's very, very hesitant, but he goes in there anyway because they've got no other choice. This is very much a belly of the whale moment. They are tested endlessly in here. Basically, well, they get into trouble. And if you watch my other video, you'll see how Gandalf has to overcome his own sort of demon, literally, in this scene. It's beautiful, beautiful storytelling. Again, Lord of the Rings is full of it. That's why people love it. I personally think Lord of the Rings trilogy is the greatest trilogy of all time. I don't think anything's ever come near it. I can watch it time and time again, and it brings out so many emotions in me. And yeah, this is very much, they're in deep shit, and they have to get out. Like, they're on this quest. This quest is so important. They have to get out of these mines eventually, but what they go through is just horrendous. It's really, really bad for them, and it has a bad outcome, but eventually it doesn't. But it's just wonderful storytelling. As I said before, it ties so beautifully into Jung's archetypes, and this is a slide from a previous where I talked about the archetypes. This is just some of them, and it's important to know that they're inside us. We all have an innocent, an orphan, an altruist, a wanderer, a warrior, a magician, a wild man, a sage, a hero, an anima, a shadow, a spirit, and a god within ourselves. Spirit, God, self, they're the same archetype, in fact. And actually, that's one thing I wanted to make. I was going to do a whole presentation on it, but I was going to try and point out that these figures that you see in religion, your Jesuses and your Odins, and they're all based on the same archetype, which is the hero. So it ties wonderfully in here. They're not real people, as in physical people. They're not real. They come from psychology. They come from the collective unconscious. So I just wanted to throw that slide in as well, because I think it ties in really, really well. If you read Carl Jung's and you get to grips with the archetypes and the collective unconscious, and you read Campbell's work, I think you'll see the world in a different way, completely. If you tie the two together, it's wonderful. I think how you can live your life and look at it in this mythological way. A quote from Campbell here. He says, "The journey of the hero is about the courage to seek the depths, the image of the creative rebirth, the eternal cycle of change within us, the uncanny discovery that the seeker is the mystery which the seeker seeks to know. The hero journey is a symbol that binds, in the original sense of the word, two distant ideas, the spiritual quest of the ancients with the modern search for identity. Always the one, shape-shifting, yet marvellously constant story that we find." I think that's a beautiful quote. And I think, know thyself. That's actually, if you strip all of this away, it's about knowing thyself. We are human beings are magnificent. We've just been told that we're not. And this is the last slide. Apply this to your life, because as he says there, you are the hero of your own story. And I think if you apply this to your own life and see, when you're going through, I don't know, a divorce or something, that's a quest. That's a hero's quest to get through. You have to get through that trial and challenge. And many of us, we all face different challenges, and some of us are tested no end. I mean, some people I work with have been through so much trauma. And I think some people have been through so much trauma it would kill another person. Each path is unique. And we're given what we select our own trials, I believe. We know that we need to grow here. Earth is a place to grow. And yeah, we are the heroes of our own story. All right, guys. I hope you got something from that, because I find it wonderful. And if you want to read the book, read the book. But be warned, it's very dense and it's so interesting. Take care, guys. See you in the next one.